Hey, beautiful people. How's everybody doing today? Let's end there. How's everyone doing today? I hope you guys are having a super Scorpio new moon. The energies are definitely interesting. I think that's the word that I'm going to use, even though that's like my go-to word, yes. But the energies are going to be really quite interesting for us for this Scorpio new moon transit. So I wanted to come into the space and do a pick a crystal reading for you guys to see what's about to unfold for us individually, I guess. The three crystals that we're working with, you would have seen it on the actual thumbnail for the video. So we've got, hey, beautiful. We've got the Amethyst Crystal that we are working with. We've got the Opalite Crystal that we're working with. And we've also got a Ruby Gemstone. Now, each of these stones actually work differently for a lot of different things. And I guess you pick the crystal that most resonates with you, that calls to you most. And we'll just kind of unpack. I've already shuffled the cards and pulled some cards out to see what's kind of unfolding for you guys. So I don't even know what's underneath these decks. So it's definitely going to be interesting to sort of dissect it and have a look at the story that's going to be unfolding. But it's definitely going to be an interesting transit for the Scorpio new moon. I'm just having a quick little look at what's taking place for us astrologically in between this moon's transit towards the the partial lunar eclipse that we've got coming on the 19th. So we've got quite a bit of movement, guys. There's a lot of stuff that's actually happening tomorrow. Mercury's also going into Scorpio tomorrow, and Venus is going into Capricorn. So what does that mean for us as far as this season? Romance is definitely going to be impacted, and the way that we perceive our romantic life is definitely going to be the way that that's going to be impacted for this Scorpio new moon season, where seemingly kind of upgrading our philosophies around romance and some of the hurt that we've kind of experienced as well, and maybe learn a little bit more about some of the learned behavior that we're actually expressing and exhibiting in our romantic relationship. So this is going to be an interesting class, guys. All of that awesomeness out of the way, guys. Obviously, these are going to be general readings. So if it doesn't resonate, guys, do just let it dissipate, okay? But if it does resonate, be sure, love that. Be sure to comment down below and let me know how you've been able to effectively utilize the info and what's kind of unfolded for you with this Scorpio new moon season. We're going to get started with crystal number one, guys. Okay, we've got the Amethyst Crystal. And we're just going to have a little look and see how things are going to be unfolding for you guys and what your particular message is from the universe. Once I've actually uploaded this, I'll go back in, get the timestamps, and you'll be able to find that in the description box below. First and foremost, before we go into pile number one, I guess the overall message for us as a collective is that at the minute, we are being guided. We are being guided to lean into love with certain situations that we're sort of navigating through. So the best way that I can put it, sometimes, you know, where it's kind of like your heart is leading you. Sometimes when you find yourself in those situations, it can be quite tricky. And I find that a lot of the times we actually get ourselves into situations where when we're solely heart-led, we experience a lot of trauma simply because we're not also being analytical of certain situations as well. And we're not sort of utilizing mind and heart. We kind of feel like we have to choose one or the other. The intention is to have both working cohesively with each other. So I guess that's the overall message for us as far as the collective guidance for this Scorpio new moon. That's the message from the universe. We kind of have to just make sure that we are led in a constructive way that isn't going to be destructive to us later on down the line. Okay, so those are some of the things that we're going to be addressing in this class for this season. That awesomeness out of the way, guys, because the best way that I can put it, like, certain people are going to be sort of coming into your orbit, and for some of us, we would have had to do some sacrifice to be able to make room for some of these people to sort of come into the space. And a lot of us may still be dealing with some of the heartbreak for some of the people that we may have had to sacrifice time with. And when I say time like that, I simply mean the tides have basically pulled out. It was no longer a healthy environment for us to be mixing with each other's tides. So the best thing for God to do is to kind of like move us apart for a little bit so that we can do some additional upgrading individually. And if and when need be, we may fall back into alignment with some of those tides once we've been optimized in ways. Okay, so we are going to start off with the overall energy for crystal number 1. The overall energy, oh, interesting. So for those of you who've chosen crystal number 1, you're actually going through, more than likely, you may be going through spiritual attack. That's the best way that I can put it. It may feel like spiritual duress. It may feel very distressful to your senses. So you might be feeling very hypervigilant. You may be feeling a lot of feelings of comparison, or this may be energy that you may be receiving where you're feeling a lot of jealousy and envy coming into the space. What I'm seeing is that there were some very tragic communication for those of you who chose crystal number 1. So it seems as though there was a little bit of hostility, but that's actually now behind you. And you're actually in a place where you're kind of looking out at the world and seeing maybe what other people have that you don't necessarily have. Because the card that we've got upright for you is envy. Now, like I said, for some of you, this may be energy that you're receiving. For others of you, you may be the one that is actually in the vibration of envy. Now, envy is it's a decent shadow, okay? It keeps us balanced with ambition, and it also actually sort of, when we're in the place of envy, we're kind of at a bit of a waypoint between admiration and jealousy. So I guess, key thing is not to fall off the Richter scale. Keep the admiration going, learn and identify. So if you're on the actual like giving end of envy, learn and identify what are the traits and qualities of the people, places, and things that you find yourself being envy of, and try and implement some of those things into your practice. So what do I mean by that? If there is a person, for instance, and you feel like they are more organized than you are, for instance, get your stuff together. Take it bit by bit, because obviously you may be kind of working through your previous personality type, which is to be a little bit lazy, unfortunately. So you kind of just have to take it bit by bit. But if you are on the other spectrum, where you're actually sort of receiving a lot of jealousy and envy projected at you, you're being used as a muse of admiration, my love. I don't know what else to say to you. I don't know how else to put it to you. But this is God's way of letting you know that the worst is behind you, and you're at a place where you may now be in balance with yourself. And because you are in balance with yourself, you may be triggering the lack perspective of others, so that they can also activate in some of these ways as well. Okay, so that is actually the overall energy that you're going to be navigating through, I guess, for this Scorpio new moon season. And this is a time of transformation. This is a time of upgrading. And it's about really working our intention. So depending on what end of the spectrum you're on, either you're receiving it or you're giving it. I provided you guys with some guidance on both. Okay. Now this card is representing kind of this is the overall energy that you guys were working with before, as far as the space that you guys are in. This card now is representing the actual way in which things are actually going to be panning out for you guys, right? So what I'm seeing with this type of situation that you're navigating through, so it may be a, how can I put it? Bear with me, guys. I'm getting the download, so I'm trying to like get the information through so I can filter it for you guys. So the path that you guys are going to be sort of navigating through is feelings of lack of success now. And again, this kind of makes sense because we're dealing with either our successes that are triggering people's identification of the things that they still need to work on, or we're also dealing with looking outside of ourselves at some of the successes of others. When we get into a place of comparison, when we're dealing with the shadow of envy, that's where we kind of fall off into the Richter scale and into jealousy. Jealousy isn't necessarily a bad shadow either. It's just very, very challenging to get out of because it's a very dense vibration. It's very gloopy. It attaches itself. It's like this very parasitic sort of energy over your light. So it takes a little bit longer to actually navigate your way out of jealousy as opposed to envy. But from what I can see with the situation, it seems as though some of these turning points that you're actually sort of navigating through with your own situation and circumstances are the reason why this little moment or this little glitch, if you will, is necessary right now to be able to allow for you to get some more momentum built with the situation. Okay, you're still kind of learning a little bit more about some of the things that you need to be doing to just get to a better place within your own self as well. What I'm seeing is that there's a lot of negative self-talk that may need to be upgraded and updated. And there may also be a lot of verbal violence. Okay, so the negative self-talk can go into the extremities of verbal violence when you're communicating with others because of how you feel towards yourself. So this particular space is kind of trying to assist you in understanding or overstanding even some of these qualities within yourself so that you can actually move into a more healthier, balanced place within yourself. Now, how do you work your light in this situation? The way that you do that is to trust your path. Okay, you kind of have to be willing to ask questions when you find yourself sort of like feeling scared about certain things. Ask your fear, what is it that you're actually scared of? You might actually learn some stuff in that particular class because sometimes our fears are very irrational. And it's like when you say it out loud, you're just like, did I really even hold that much wrapped up in that little thing that was so insignificant? Do you know what I mean? And that's not to be rude to any of our fears. It's just that some of our fears really are just stories that we build, whereas other fears that we may have are pretty much just a logical mind's processing to be able to see how certain things are possible. And that's why we need to kind of engage with fear and have certain conversations so that we can differentiate the two, rational fears and irrational fears. So this season is about inquiry for you, really asking questions when you find yourself in a place of distrust for your path and you find certain emotions coming up, like anxiety, like doubt. It's really a case of you being able to protect yourself by cutting the cords and disconnecting from some of those negative thought patterns. And that doesn't basically mean annihilating these thought patterns, because these are parts and pieces of yourself. So how you treat yourself during the process of your spiritual surgery will actually have subsequential impact and side effects on the way in which you are treated moving forward. So be gentle with yourself in the process, be kind to yourself as you kind of navigate through it. and you'll be able to go through a process of a soul retrieval where you're not just clouded by the shadow of envy, but you've learned what you needed to from the class of envy to continue to push forward into a more healthy, balanced state as far as the way that you're actually communicating with yourself. Okay. Your message, my loves, from the universe is, looking at it, the universe is saying that the key to prayer for you is to forget what you think that you need. So again, because we're dealing with envy, right? We're dealing with envy, which is, we've got a saying back home, like, you're very ready-eye. So it's like, when you're in the vibration or the spirit of envy, like, you're just looking outside of yourself, everything that everybody else has, you want, basically. That's what that saying's kind of, I guess, indicative of. And that's really something that God wants you to understand. You're so busy looking at what others have, you're not necessarily taking the time to find the places in yourself that already has some of these qualities that may need to be optimized. Nonetheless, these qualities already exist within yourself, which is why you're even resonating and reflecting with the type of people and places and things in the way that you are. Okay, and just know that as you move forward, the universe works fast when you're actually having fun with it, when you're not taking things so seriously. Yes, you know, the ascension process, I mean, it's serious work, but honestly, some of my funnest time with my guides are the moments where I've like missed a cue here, or I've forgotten what I was supposed to be doing here. Like, those are some of our most memorable experiences. And in all honesty, they know who they're working with. They know I'm not perfect. I don't claim to be perfect. And those are some of the things that makes the process a little bit more engaging. Those are some of the things that makes the process a little bit more engaging, you know. It just makes it a little bit more of a happy experience, because sometimes doing like this human stuff can be very, very draining, actually. And when we get too serious with it, it starts to just get depleting to our energy. So yeah, just forget whatever it is that you think that you need, because you may be focusing on that need too much to the point where you're in the vibration of desperation. So just keep that in check a little bit. And the outcome of the situation is that you will learn from the competition. Okay, you will learn from the competitive nature of others, like I said. And this is so interesting how all the cards are actually correlating. So this is clearly telling a story. You're going to be sitting the class of envy and competition, right? But you'll learn a little bit more about competition. You learn how to balance your own healthy competition. And also, you will be utilized, as I said, as a muse for others in their ascension process. So you'll actually learn a little bit more how to handle the trolls in these streets, as they say. That will also actually help you to optimize in terms of the way that you engage with people moving forward. So this is a necessary class for you to sit as well. Sometimes we get like optimized and we get to certain levels and we're like, well, why do I have to sit this class as well? You're still actually like growing into your version that you're becoming, that absolute greatest version of yourself, and there's still things that we will need to learn along the way, you know. So even if you're sat in the class and you're actually reflecting the higher vibration, you still need to learn a little bit about the lower vibrations as well, so that you know how to engage with those moving forwards as well, because they trigger. Okay, that's the real, they trigger, and you need to learn your trigger responses and pretty much optimize on that part as well. Okay, so that is crystal number 1. I should have probably been taking notes on this. This would have been much easier had I done that. But crystal number 2, we're going to get on with that now. Now I shall take notes so that I can actually keep the timings together for you guys, for the timestamp below, guys. Okay. Crystal number 2, this is you, Pumpkin Soul. Hopefully you're still in the room to be able to sort of pick up the guidance on this. So the crystal number 2 is the opalite crystal. If you've kind of resonated with this crystal, it really means that you're going through a purification process at the minute. It means that you're going through a little bit of I guess, awareness and clarity. And the opalite crystal can be very, very good stuff. Beautiful. The opalite crystal can be very, very useful for being able to just, how can I put it? Sit within yourself. It's very good for introspection. Okay, so it kind of is more than likely indicative of what's going on beneath here. Okay, so crystal number 2, guys, what we've got is the actual overall energy that you're actually going to be navigating through. The overall energy that you're going to be navigating through is the sun in reverse, which means that you're dealing with a lot of depressive thoughts. It does also mean that you're dealing with a lot of overwhelmingly intensified pressure. So a lot of the times when we're experiencing depressive thoughts or feelings, it's more of an indication that we're under a lot of pressure. And a lot of that pressure hence the whole concept, deep pressure on us, depression. This sort of energy that you're kind of navigating through, it's due to lack of success in certain areas. So what you want to do is kind of take some time to identify pretty much what are some of the things that are actually sort of causing you to feel pressured? What are some of the things that are actually causing the depression? What are some of the circumstances, more than likely, no doubt, that is causing you to feel as though you are incapable? Because that's what depression is, right? You start to get under all of these pressures of things that you've got on top of you, and you start to feel incapable. And that's when it starts to bleed into the area of depression, to the point where you start to believe the narrative of that imposter syndrome, and then you move into a state of actually being or becoming the can't narrative that you kind of start putting over your experience once you start to meet resistance. And the resistance is so hard. Once the resistance becomes so hard, it's like, I can't do this, and that's how it feels, right? And it's not that you can't do it, it's that you haven't yet learned how to do it. And it's really just a case of figuring out different ways to be able to achieve the goals, and really identifying what you've done before that hasn't necessarily worked, because that can no longer be an option moving forward. Okay. And when I say can no longer be an option moving forward, what do I mean by that? It's fair to say, when I'm in relationship with this person, I'm not able to keep up with my spiritual practices as much as I would like to, because I find them so distracting. That's not going to be useful as an excuse anymore. You're actually going to have to learn how to juggle navigating through managing your relationship with this person, and actually also managing your relationship with yourself, to be able to get out of the vibration or the spirit of depression. You have to start getting into a place where you feel a little bit more capable of actually achieving some of your goals and getting to some of your checkpoints in life. Okay. The actual attitude that you have towards the situation, let's have a little look. So the attitude that you've got towards the situation is very much kind of feeling like, you feel like there's this element of stifled creativity, like it just doesn't matter what you do, like nothing is going to change. Like that's kind of like how I'm feeling and sensing the actual, I guess, energy as far as the attitude for this Scorpio new moon. That's not true. This is a lot of internalized energy as well. So this means that this is more so thoughts, which means that, this is more so feelings, which means that the thoughts can be intercepted. Okay, so let's kind of break this down a little bit. The feeling of depression is coming from comparison. What I mean when I say comparison, you are comparing your present reality to your ideal circumstances. And let me repeat that again. You are comparing your present reality to your ideal circumstances, which is what is causing a lot of the depression. Okay. Now, we're not able to deal with the ideal circumstances because that's not the reality that we're living. However, we can work towards a goal for that at some point in the future. So what, like I said, with this depression that we're navigating through, right? The attitude has to be optimized differently. So that these sorry, my third eye, I'm like literally the map, the plan is kind of like coming out. My third eye was expanding. What I'm seeing with the situation is that for yourself, the attitude that you've got on the lack of progress needs to change, because that's not true. You need to focus on the things that are progressing. So that's one of the ways to be able to shift some of this attitude issue that you've got that is further feeding the depression as well, making it bigger. And you get the opportunity during this Scorpio new moon to do that, right? So yeah, you just kind of need to, one, dissect the pretty much. One, you kind of need to dissect the depression and understand what are the circumstances that are actually causing the depression. Find your places of empowerment within that. So you'll find the circumstances that may not necessarily be within your control. Those things, you put those things to one side, right? The circumstances that are within your control, you get those done to the best of your abilities. Those things will start to build your confidence. As you achieve more and more of those things, it will build your confidence, start giving you this belief of being capable, and it will put you in a position whereby the depression it's kind of lesser, its hold and grip on you, because now you're feeling a little bit more capable. You're taking off some of the things that you are under the pressure of. Okay. And that will help you to be able to kind of like shift your attitude towards the situation. But for the most part, it seems as though your attitude is pretty much just feeling like there's stagnation. And it will feel like that sometimes when we're working with divine timing. Divine timing is exactly that. It is divinely timed, and there's a lot of other variables to it. So just remember, when you find yourself in that type of space where it feels like nothing that you're doing is working, focus on the things that you are doing that you know is clearly working. Okay, that's the way you sort of like shift the narrative with depression there. Another thing as well, lean into depression. I wouldn't recommend this for everyone, because depression can be quite tragic depending on what stage or layer of depression you're actually navigating through. However, when you kind of like find yourself in depression, it can be a very, very useful shadow for understanding a little bit more about what parts of yourself may be feeling like, what parts of your ego may be bruised, basically. Okay, so you can tend to those parts of your ego, so that you can nurse those parts of your ego, so that you can nurse those wounded parts of yourself. The trick is to get to the core beliefs that are playing out some of these narratives. Like, for instance, when we get to the place where we start to compare ourselves to the people outside of us, and we start to compare in comparison to society, it gets to a place where we have to think, okay, where did I learn the pattern of comparison? What situation? When did I first feel like I was in this dynamic of comparison? Who taught me that? Okay, that is a core belief based on the narrative created by that particular individual or that particular circumstances. That is an imposture. So because that core belief is no longer serving, because that was something that you experienced when you were more than likely younger, it's no longer serving and it needs to be updated. So what you would do in that situation is that you would pretty much just kind of reset the programming on that situation a little bit. So what do I mean by that? You would have to visit essentially that timeline, that memory, that core belief that assigned that kind of pattern to the way that you engage with people, the way that you see yourself. And you would pretty much just have to parent yourself accordingly to what you needed then. If what you needed then was for somebody to tell you, do you know what, you're beautiful? Do you know what, you are smart? Do you know what, you do have so many amazing qualities that I'm even jealous of? Do you know what I mean? Just really sit and have these conversations with yourself in that space, on that timeline. And that actually also helps to be able to alleviate some of the pressures of this timeline, because now you've basically optimized your past self by updating your core belief assigned to that timeline. I hope that that makes sense. And then that actually clears room for you to be able to move forward, that part. So the way for you to be able to really make the most of this Scorpio new moon is to know that you've already been through the initiation process. You've already gone through an initiation, hence you're in depression. Okay, the initiation has already taken place, which is why you're feeling all of this pressure on you, because you have got all of these, I guess, responsibilities that you have to take control of. And the way in which you do that is to come to the realization that, thank you, my love, it's to come to the realization that you are a pillar of light. Okay, you are the oracle. You get to dictate your life. You get to articulate how you would like for things to unfold for yourself, and you get to actually say, this is and isn't for me, and you've got every right to do that. So that's kind of how you work your light as you navigate through the class of this Scorpio new moon season for yourself. Your message from the universe is an introverted message, because the cards in reverse, I even read these in reverse as well, because I need to know how the energy is operating within us. So internally, you may be going through a mistrust of your guidance. Okay, and what that means is that you're not necessarily trusting your own judgment to fully believe that what your guides are telling you is really actually what you are supposed to be doing, what you need to be doing. And a lot of the times when we're engaging with our guides, you know, I hear so many people say to me, like, how do I know that it's them and not me? My love, trust me, you can understand the presence of the feeling of a download as opposed to an upload. When you are uploading, the energy direction is in a completely different wave pattern. When you are being downloaded into, when you're being poured into, it's a completely different experience. Yes, the process is the same. It works through thoughts and feelings, because that's the design of the human. However, you know what's going on. And it's about learning, if anything, to differentiate or identify when you are being downloaded into as opposed to when you are uploading out there. So when you are projecting as opposed to when you are actually in receptive mode. Okay. But it's really about having this inner dialogue about the ways in which you trust yourself and your own judgment. That's what the universe is saying to you, that if you always trust the direction of the universe and know that you're being guided, you'll get to a place where you can be comfortable with where you're being guided to. Okay. And the outcome for yourself, my loves, is that there are going to be wish fulfillments. Let me clarify. I didn't say they are. I'm saying they are not. Then there's not going to be wish fulfillment during this Scorpio new moon season, and it's been designed that way so you can process this depression, so that you can be optimized during this process of this Scorpio new moon, which is very great for transformative rebirth. And beyond the Scorpio new moon, I guess we'll kind of see where you are beyond that. But the outcome is that wishes aren't necessarily being fulfilled, but you need this tough love. Essentially, that's what's taking place at the minute. You're being buried, depression, being under deep pressure. You're being buried. God has planted a seed within you, and he's kind of encouraging it to be nurtured by yourself, and you have to learn how to nurture the seed, essentially. Okay. And that's pretty much it, really. Right, guys, we're going to move on to crystal number 3, guys. Okay. I'm literally just trying to take notes so that I can actually get this uploaded with the timestamps a little bit later on for you guys. But I hope that that was useful for you guys. Definitely be sure to let me know how you're actually sort of navigating through the process of this depression and everything else that's sort of coming along with it. Yeah, very, very useful shadow, very underrated because we don't know how to work with it. But I guess the Scorpio new moon is going to help you to ascend from that spirit by transcending it. That part, beautiful. That part, no, I completely understand. We're going to go ahead and look at those who've chosen the Ruby Gemstone. This is interesting because Ruby is all about root chakra activation, I guess, essentially. It's really about looking into our foundations of self, our self philosophies. It's really about our self identity and the fears that are sort of wrapped up into that as well, because the root chakra has a lot. And this is interesting, actually. Going straight into it, guys, for crystals number 3, ruby crystal. What you're dealing with for this Scorpio new moon is financial disarray. So that's the class that's going to be transformed for you, essentially. Finances is going to be transformed for you, but in order for it to be transformed, you kind of have to go through a process of falling apart so that you can build yourself back up, essentially. Okay. This is kind of showing me that the overall energy that you're going through is really learning about your financial disorganization. So your money management is probably poor due to your time management as well. So a lot of the times we struggle with managing our money because we're not able to like anticipate how long we're going to need money for this, and this, especially when we're sort of on the lower income scale bracket. That's kind of how we have to live. We kind of live, I guess, paycheck to paycheck. And when we're living in that kind of experience, we get very, very poor with our money management because we're living paycheck to paycheck. So our timing is literally, it's no longer it's not beyond the next paycheck. We're not kind of budgeting that way. Essentially, we're budgeting for the next paycheck, which is why those are two of the key things that is basically affecting your pocket, for lack of a better way of putting it, affecting your coins. So you're going to be sitting the classroom, and this is interesting because this is whatever it is that you're navigating through around your finances for this Scorpio new moon. By the Taurus full moon, you'll start to see some clearing out of some of those energies because you'll start to release some of the backup when it comes to that situation. But for the most part, you need to sit this class so that you can learn about what things you're unrealistic about when you're dealing with your money management so that you can get a little bit more realistic about those things moving forward. Okay. So your overall attitude towards the situation is, like I said, you don't feel like you can juggle it. Your attitude towards the situation is that it feels like things are completely chaotic and you're struggling to be able to juggle all of the things that needs to be done. This is very, very interesting as well. You're happy because there's a lot of things that are going to be coming in at some point, and you can feel that all of this I guess this sacrifice that you're making now, all of the finances that may be sort of getting lost in translation, as far as what it is that you want. Sometimes, we want to get some new costumes, right? We want to dress our avatars in a different way for the next version that we're manifesting. But in order for us to do that, we have to sacrifice all of the old stuff that we have, for instance. And there's a house fire that basically happens as you're trying to manifest these new costumes, and you're so busy focused on the house fire. But you can still sense and feel that this is actually an opportunity. There's a chance further ahead for you to be able to really recoup from this. So it's the same sort of dynamic that's actually playing out here. What I'd say for you guys is that your organization is the main issue. And I've already said this. Because that's the thing that is causing the issue. That is the attitude that is causing the issue to continue to be perpetuated. You need to get a lot more organized because God wants to bless you with so much more. And in order for him to be able to bless you with so much more, he needs to know that you can manage all of the stuff that he's going to be trusting you with, all of the finances, all of the blessings, all of the opportunities to make more finances and bless others in the process that he's going to be bringing to you. He needs to make sure that you are actually prepared for that. How to work your light during the process of this Scorpio new moon is to activate, my love. Allow yourself to awaken. Okay, allow for yourself to be integrated into the next version of the person that you're looking towards becoming. That person has certain mannerisms. That person has a certain self-discipline. That person has certain qualities that you're working at optimizing at this point of your journey. And the way to work your light on that is to awaken. Become consciously aware of some of the patterns of that next version of yourself and start to embody some of those patterns, start to reflect some of those patterns. You are getting energetic upgrades. You are getting genetic upgrades because God needs to send some blessings my way. Honestly, a lot of the times, we're busy blocking our own blessings. So it's really about us being able to, even if we kind of feel like there's a blessing disguise, sometimes some blessings are just very blatant. Do you know what I mean? It's not even so much that it's described. It's just that we're resistant to accepting the blessing. So the I guess example I made, for instance, with a house fire, right? You wouldn't actually think that the way that God's going to give you your next glad rags is through a house fire. But mashallah, give thanks. You remove the things that you didn't need to make room in your wardrobe for all of the amazing things that he's going to give you. And if you keep that sort of energy towards a situation, it actually opens up the timeline a little bit quicker. So when you see things starting to go what we perceive to be wrong, start to look into it and see what God is actually trying to prepare you for, so that you can draw closer to it, which will actually shorten the timeline and optimize the efficiency. Okay. But yeah, that's how you work your light, my loves, for this Scorpio new moon. Awaken to the qualities that you need to basically optimize: organization skills, time management, money management. Get your budgeting situation into check, right? So that you're not overexerting your energy financially, as well as just through time as well. Okay. And the message from the universe for you is happiness is your birthright. It absolutely is your birthright. Bear with me, guys. Hey, my love, let me give you a call back in 5 minutes. Okay. Okay, beautiful. Bye. Right, guys. So this is what the universe actually wants you guys to know. Happiness is your birthright. Okay. You may not have felt like you wanted to be right, Pumpkin? You may not have felt like you wanted to be able to optimize yourself onto certain timelines because you felt like it was daunting, because you felt like it was going to be a lot to handle. Success has a cost. It does have a price, and that price a lot of the times is time. And there are things that you can do now that is going to take you a bit of time to set up. But in the long run, it can start to actually be profitable without you having to even do anything. So it's just about how you work. If you choose to work smarter, you won't have to work harder. So you won't have to be working from paycheck to paycheck, trying to figure out how to make things work for yourself financially. What you need to do is figure out how to work smarter so that you can get the kind of results that you actually truly deserve. And also, yes, it's going to take some time. Yes, it's actually going to take a lot of energy. It may be exhausting, draining even, but it's your birthright. And when I say that it's your birthright, what I mean by that is the fact that you came here. This was a potential timeline that was already designated to you and for you. It's up to you to claim it. And there's certain things that you have to do to be able to let God and the universe know that you're willing to be able to claim what's rightfully yours. And that's taking certain actions. So once you start to implement some of these actions and activate, okay, you'll start to see that God knows that he can trust you with the responsibility because you now feel that you're trustworthy with the responsibility because you feel capable. Okay. The outcome for you guys, should you actually, I guess, take heed of all of this insight, is the Chariot in reverse. So this is kind of letting me know that you may be lacking a little bit of focus, and you may be lacking a little bit of ambition. So you may need to get focus in check by understanding what the actual goal and ambition is, so that you can get a little bit more clarity on how to effectively get your finances into check. Okay, my loves? I hope that was useful for you guys, because there seems to be a lot kind of taking place for us as a collective during this Scorpio new moon. I hope that was useful for those of you guys who are navigating through some of these shadows from the internal aspect where you're receiving it. And I hope it was useful for those of you who are dealing with that energy sort of being projected out there as well, because this is going to be quite interesting for a lot of us. It was very varied because we're dealing with envy, depression, and money management class. So I guess those are the three areas that we all needed to sort of like look into for this season, essentially. And we chose whatever crystal we needed the direct guidance from, the crystal that really sort of allowed for us to get whatever we need. So I'm definitely going to put the timestamps below. If you guys do like my vibe, be sure to join the tribe, guys. I'd love to have you. Honestly, this stuff makes it a little bit more easier when you've got some companionship along the journey. And if you guys do sort of appreciate the content and it resonates with you, give me a thumbs up. That way I know that I'm doing a decent job at the end of the day. On that note, my loves, I'm actually going to love you guys and leave it there for you guys. I hope you guys have a super Scorpio new moon taking place today. And until the next video, I'll see you, my loves. Mwah. Take care. Ta-ra. God bless.
All the things they said to hold her back, they never seem to leave her head and tend to keep her mind at war. All the things they said to hold her back, they keep her locked inside of all the times when she's been hurt before.
See you later, guys. I'll see you guys actually for tomorrow's session for the free readings. Take care, loves. Ta-ra.